All right, let's dive into a really powerful warning from the book of Ezekiel. We're going to break down this ancient message about what true leadership and failed leadership really looks like.
So to really get this, you've got to put yourself in Ezekiel's shoes. We're talking about a moment of intense national crisis. The people of Judah have been ripped from their homes, they're living in exile, and their whole world is on the brink of collapse. This isn't just a history lesson, it's the backdrop for everything he's about to say.
And the whole thing kicks off with verse 1, using this phrase that's like a neon sign in the Old Testament. When a prophet says, "The word of the Lord came unto me," it's his way of saying, okay, everybody, listen up. What I'm about to say isn't my opinion, this is coming straight from God.
Now, verse 2 really draws a line in the sand. God basically tells Ezekiel, I want you to go after the other prophets in Israel. So right away, we have this major contrast. You've got prophets speaking God's truth on one side, and on the other, you have these leaders who are just making things up, speaking from their own ambition and telling people what they want to hear.
Then in verse 3, the hammer drops. That word woe isn't just him being sad, it's a formal declaration of judgment. And God calls these prophets foolish. Why? Because they're just following their own gut feelings. They haven't seen anything from God, their prophecies are totally baseless, just empty words.
And here, in verse 4, we get this incredible, vivid metaphor. He doesn't just say they're bad leaders. He says they are like foxes in the deserts. Now that might sound a little strange to us, but for his original audience, this image was packed with meaning. So what do you think of when you picture a fox? They're cunning, they're sneaky. But more than that, they're known for digging under walls and weakening foundations. So God is saying these prophets, the very people who are supposed to be protecting the nation, are actually the ones secretly undermining it from within, all for their own selfish gain.
Which brings us to the absolute heart of the issue in verse 5, this idea of standing in the gap. In ancient warfare, this was a literal life-or-death job. If an enemy breached the city wall, a soldier's duty was to physically stand in that hole and fight, to be the last line of defense. Spiritually, that was the prophet's job, and it's the one thing they completely failed to do.
Just picture it. A city is under attack. There's a huge hole in the wall, and the guards, the people who swore to protect everyone, just shrug and walk away. That is the devastating image Ezekiel is painting here. These so-called prophets saw the moral and spiritual cracks forming in the nation, and they did absolutely nothing to fix them. They left the people completely exposed.
But you know, it's easy to talk about what not to do. So what does it actually look like to stand in the gap? Well, the Bible gives us this amazing case study from about 100 years earlier that shows the complete opposite. Let's hit rewind and go back to 701 BCE. The Assyrian army, the undisputed superpower of the day, has Jerusalem surrounded. Their king, Sennacherib, is literally outside the walls, mocking the city and their God. The situation looks absolutely hopeless.
And what does Judah's king, Hezekiah, do? Well, he does exactly what the false prophets didn't. He takes practical action, literally repairing the breaks in the city walls. And then he takes spiritual action. He goes to the temple, humbles himself, and begs God to save his people. And what happens? God responds in a massive way. That's what standing in the gap looks like.
Okay, so let's jump back to Ezekiel's time and look closer at verses 6 and 7, because they really spell out the specific crime of these false prophets. See, their sin wasn't just getting a prediction wrong. It was that they were knowingly selling people a lie. They were whispering, "Peace, peace," telling everyone that everything was going to be fine, right when the Babylonian army was getting ready to invade. They were giving people false hope, and worse, they were stamping God's name on it.
And that leads to the verdict in verse 8, and it is absolutely chilling. Because of all their lies and deception, God says it plainly, "Behold, I am against you." I mean, can you imagine anything more terrifying than having the God of the universe declare that he is your personal opponent?
So what's the sentence for this crime? Verse 9 spells it out, and it is severe. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. It's total, permanent excommunication. They'll be kicked out of the community, their names will be erased from the official records, and they will never, ever be allowed to return to the land of Israel. They will be completely cut off.
But the verse ends with this incredible statement of purpose. See, this judgment wasn't just about punishment. It was about revealing the truth. God is essentially saying, when all your false prophecies of peace crumble and Jerusalem falls, then everyone will finally know that I am the Lord God. His word is the one that stands.
And that's what makes this ancient text so relevant, isn't it? It's not just a history lesson. It's a question that echoes through time and forces us to look around today. Who are the people actually defending what's true and right, strengthening the foundations? And who are the ones just selling comforting lies for their own benefit? In any era, who is truly standing in the gap? It's a question worth thinking about.